Hello, BlackJupiter friends. I'm Agent Random, and as is customary around these parts, I'm here to talk to you about The World Ends With You. Wait, didn't I already say all that like 3 years ago? Oh yeah, that was back when I talked about all the cut and unused content from Neo The World Ends With You. Good times, great thumbnail. You know, I wonder what the thumbnail for the original games video looked like. Oh, I never did a video on that one. Kinda seems like an oversight. Well, in that case, hi! Welcome to the secrets behind the first World Ends With You's cut and unused content. A video that took so long to happen that a bunch more Neo content has been discovered. So much so that I can make a whole second volume of that video. But we'll get to that when we get there. For now, let's talk about the stuff that got left on the cutting room floor 17 years ago. And now, if you look to your right, you'll see spoilers for the first game. If you look to your left, you'll see the ability to click off the video so you don't have to see what's on your right. Right off the bat, I can't talk about World Ends With You beta stuff without talking about Emotion Edge. Back when this game was in the early days of being some weird mutation of Kingdom Hearts' Chain of Memories, the devs had the idea of making the game rhythm-based, and we're going to call it Emotion Edge. The rhythm roots can still be seen in the final version since a lot of the character designs and names wrote back into music, all of the enemies are named after music genres, and the soundtrack feels like they told the composer that this game only works if gosh dang every song's a banger. Emotion Edge saw Neku and Shiki leading two separate teams that aim to claim different portions of Shibuya for themselves. Wait, is Neo The World Ends With You just Emotion Edge? Really, the World Ends With You team has never seemed to be able to fully let go of Emotion Edge, and specifically the rhythm aspect. Or at least as much as they can not let go of the idea while somehow also not making a World Ends With You rhythm game. Since World Ends With You music has shown up in 3 different rhythm games from 3 different series, Final Remix seems like it wanted to take another crack at being a rhythm game since there are sprites left over from some sort of rhythm mode. I assume the devs didn't have enough time to get that fully built into the game, and it won't be the last time I say that about Final Remix. To cap off the Emotion Edge segment, I'd just like to say that Emotion Edge had swords. They gave Shiki a sword, and it's awesome. But speaking of music, several of the music tracks were changed before the final release. Something that probably isn't a big surprise to you if you're familiar with how the composer, Takaharu Ishimoto, operates. I swear bro can't open the files for his songs without changing something every time. Early trailers gave us beta versions of Owari Hajimari, Underground, and Game Over. Plus a song that sure sounds like an early version of Give Me All Your Love was released in a CD album given away at some Square Enix party 2 months before the game came out. I have no idea why the final version of the song wouldn't have been done by then, but it's World Ends With You music. I know better than to question perfect artistry. Most of the songs got redone in Final Remix, but 2 got left behind. There's an unused version of Make or Break Final Remix in the files, and a version of Twister Gang Mix, or Twister Gang Mix version Final Remix version, if you will, was released, with the game just not in it. It's part of the Collector's Edition mini soundtrack CD. The song doesn't actually get used in the game, but there it is. I assume it's left out because they forgot about it. Final Remix is far from perfect artistry, and I will never hesitate to question it. Also, while I'm on the subject, that mini CD is the only time that any of the songs from Final Remix were released, and it's not even close to all of the songs. Square, release the soundtrack, please, I'm begging you. Speaking of soundtrack, one curious song is titled, this is a doozy, MMM:001/ The World Ends With You. The MMM stands for Mini Metal Master, and no, I will not be elaborating. You'll be forced to live with the mystery your whole life. Or look it up on TWEWY.wiki, I don't really care. Anyway, released alongside a music video that was made up of cutscenes from Solo Remix. Or was it? Since a lot of those scenes were remade from dang old trailers for the DS game. Scenes that did not actually make it into the final game. And heck, not even all of them made it into this music video. Some of these scenes are whatever, or minor alterations, or extended shots from the opening sequence. Most notably, this shot from the opening that introduces Uzuki and Karia is actually from a scene where Neku runs up a building to fight them like he's Roxas. Some of the scenes are from scenes that exist in the final game, but just don't have the animated cutscene accompanying them. My best guess for that is storage reasons, but I really don't know how much storage these animated cutscenes took up. These include a scene just before the Uzuki Shiki and Karya battle in front of Tower Records, Neku and Joshua going to see the mural in Utagawa, Beats fighting Neku in front of Tower Records, and my favorite, Ikishizawa crashing into the station underpass on the 7th day to fight Neku and Shiki. Like seriously, how do they get from the station underpass to the expressway in the final game? I might be wrong, but I don't think those locations connect. The scene would have probably made that whole part make way more sense. And of course, some of the scenes represent earlier drafts of the story. Like before the invention of hair dryers, Joshua would have used a Glock to kill Neku. This beta Joshua has been affectionately named by fans Glockshua. Also, this scene takes place in front of Kat's mural in Miyashita Park instead of Utagawa, meaning that Neku died here originally. Other location changes include Neku trying to kill Shiki in the station underpass, presumably because he got frustrated at going the wrong way to the freeway. The Minamimoto fight used to be in front of 10-4 it seems, and not really a cutscene, but in the same vein, the Prague Fox fight used to be in front of AMX. What else do we have here? There's a scene of Uzuki with a cat in here somewhere. That cat sure ain't in the final game. Also, there's a scene likely from the very start of the game where Neku almost gets run over by a car, but the car phases right through him. This one got reused in the anime adaptation. And hey, cutscenes aren't exclusive to the DS game. Final Remix also has one. In Final Remix's announcement trailer, you know that one time the World Ends With You was important enough to open a Nintendo Direct before basically never appearing in one ever again? There's a shot of Shinjuku exploding. It does get destroyed in the game, but it doesn't quite look like that. If we roll back to even older trailers for the DS game, then there's this shot that shows a bunch of noise symbols that just plain aren't in the final game. Some get modified and put into the final game, but some of these were just plain left behind. It's a little difficult to tell which is which since I'm no expert on animal skulls, but it looks like we have some sort of bird, a dinosaur, a crocodile, a big cat? And then the rest of these are actually in the game, like frog, rhino, boomer, or wolf? Is that a wolf? Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello?
Skulls, we all have them.
What?
Some of us have multiple, and if you do, hopefully the other ones aren't human and are instead of animals. This is a segue. These skulls were the inspiration behind the noise symbols in The World Ends With You. Most of these symbols came back in the second game, but not all of them. Most importantly, this one right here. If you're looking at this symbol and thinking, wait a minute, isn't that the wolf symbol? Wolves aren't Neo. You'd be like me before I lost my mind. You see, that's not the symbol for Wolf and Neo. No, instead, they use this symbol. That's not a wolf skull. That's a hedgehog skull, or a shrew skull. It's kinda hard to tell the difference, I'll be honest. They mixed up the symbols. If you compare the original game wolf symbol with the wolf skull, you can notice that there's a lot of similarities there as opposed to the Neo symbol. The original symbol has a satchel crest, that little ridge on the top of the skull, which is notably not on the shrew. But here's the thing, none of that matters if in the first game, that symbol doesn't primarily spawn wolves. And you'll never guess what the Neo-Wolf symbol did. It spawned cornhogs and shrews. Who could have seen this coming? Well, apparently, not the Neo devs, who decided that that right there is a wolf skull.
Yeah, Pundit, that's awesome. You can go back to playing Sakura Succubus now. Alright, I'm done with this. Let's grab some miscellaneous stuff. Hey, I just talked about cut noise, but outside of that screenshot, we have the spider noise. While spider noise would go on to appear in the anime, this one was a sort of boss that would use a lower level and a balcony similar to the bat bosses. A bunch of pins were cut. We don't know much about them, but in my notes I wrote down Cure Drink But Greener, Alt Colored Cool Line, U-shaped Dynamite, and Purple Bathroom sign person. Holy frick, the cat's back. There was originally a fourth shop inside of 10-4, this being another Musradis shop. Early trailers include unused voice dialogue, including some English ones. Take a listen.
Why do you push people away like that?
'Cause I don't get people. Never have. Never will. It was you. You killed me!
Week 3 Day 7 has an unused chapter close cutscene, and in the final game, no such scene plays, it just skips right to the 7 days later at the end of the day. Afterwards is the credits, which the files for Solo Remix have the full sprites for, since Square originally intended to have its cutscenes played through a browser using JavaScript. Live Remix, yeah, even Live Remix has unused content, has files related to an English release. Frankly, the game barely even had a Japanese release. And then there's Final Remix. I swear more stuff stuff got left out of Final Remix than they added in Final Remix. When I say this game looks like it got built in a weekend, I mean it. I mentioned that rhythm mode stuff was left in the sprite files, but they left a good amount of other stuff in there too. I mentioned in another video that a programming typo causes the title screen artwork to not use the highest res version in the files. Also in here is a sprite of Joshua pulling out his angel feather, except the layering's messed up, so the feather is just kinda floating outside of his hand. On top of that, the files also contain literally every sprite from Solo Remix, all upscaled for the Switch, regardless if they ended up being used or would have ever been used in any timeline. Like, yeah, we have the sprites for Coco's microtransaction shop in Twinkle mode, but I don't think those were ever planned for the game, because there ain't no way that any version of this $50 retail game was going to advertise Square Enix's other mobile releases from 2012. That mentality of making sprites for everything just in case may also be why there are sprites for purple dissonance versions of every noise type symbols, including bosses. I highly doubt that any draft of A New Day contained dissonance Konishi, even though her noise symbol is in the files. Or I don't know, maybe it did, since the chapter select data for A New Day has 2 empty slots, and the playlists that determine what songs play on what day have 3 unused sets just for A New Day. Personally, I would totally buy that earlier versions of the game had A New Day going on much longer than the final version, but that's just my hunch. As for more concrete unused content, all versions of Final Remix outside of the English and Japanese ones contain subtitles for the cutscenes since they're only voiced in those 2 languages. But the data does exist for the subtitle feature for the English and Japanese versions. The files also have data for HD Rumble support on the Joy-Cons. And probably the most iconic piece of Final Remix cut content is the original multiplayer mode. In that same Nintendo Direct that showed the unused shot of Shinjuku going boom, they showed multiplayer mode, but instead of the second player playing with a sort of character-specific pin set, the partner was controlled pretty much like they were in the DS version, with the D-pad selecting cards to play a sort of microgame on the bottom of the screen. The devs have stated that they couldn't get this method to be super fun to play, so they opted for what we saw in the final version. I can't ever really know without having played it, but man, do I wish they got that fully working. Maybe if they had more time to make the game, I don't know. And for the final piece of cut content, I have a call to action. Because try as I might, I don't know what the story behind this one is, and I desperately hope that someone watching this video does. I have spoken with the top minds in the world when it comes to being a hyper-obsessed World Ends With You fan, that is, and none of us can crack the code. Okay, so the Final Remix art book contains these unused sprites of Neku, Joshua, and Beat crossing their fingers, which is odd since Final Remix has no new talking sprites that aren't just edits of pre-existing ones. The Beat one looks kinda like the sprite they used for him in the cutscene just following the final boss, but no, that's a very similar looking, yet different sprite of Beat crossing his fingers. Rookie mistake. And then the full version of these sprites just sorta turned up on the Nintendo fandom wiki of all places. Where on earth did they come from? Are these official? Are they fan-made? Somehow this wouldn't be the first time that someone makes fake World Ends With You assets inconsequential enough just to frequent nutcases like me. And these aren't even the only new sprites here, since it looks like all the sprites for the main 5 players are like Square's original assets for them rather than the in-game sprites, at least going off of how they're cut off at the bottom. The editor that uploaded these sprites has not been seen around the internet in years. I can't find any record of someone having made these, but also no record of these being released by Square Enix. And yet, I know this franchise. After a while, stuff just gets lost to time. The anime's website just got sold to a hentai. It is not impossible that these sprites are just from some obscure press kit or something. So where are these sprites from? Are these even the real unused sprites? Nobody knows. Except, of course, maybe one of you. Oh, and also Ryan was originally a boy. I didn't really have anywhere else to fit that in, so yeah. But before I go, big thanks to Marin, who I think in basically all of these videos at this point, for finding a good most of this stuff. That man is a wizard. And also thank you to ThatOnePundit for invading my personal space again to talk about his ramblings. And last but certainly not least are our patrons: Bacon and Certain Noun, Kaiser, Willpower784, Wonderland Snack, The Missing Samurai, and Venforia. Oh, it's different. It has the Foria there. Ooh. Sorry for no video last month. I hope this is not the only video I make this month. We'll see. But until next time, bye.